at the end of the week, all right? You'd be kind of ready, wouldn't you? Oh. You're ready for a feet up glass of wine, you know. Okay. So hello everyone, this is day 5. We're in the summer school at Kikenzie. Erin is modelling today, and I'm going to do a side profile portrait of Erin. Now you won't see her side profile on camera, but you know, this is the best we can do. We've just got one camera angle. My name is Anya Devine, those of you who've not seen me before, and I'm here with the lovely participants of the summer school. And I'm delighted they've shown up again today for more. So let's see what happens. All right. And so as usual, it's the kind of loose approach at the beginning, really, that's happening here first, you know. So it's more about kind of finding really fully occupying the space that you're in, rolling the shoulders back, shaking it off in any way you can to find ease in your body before beginning. And then locate yourself so that you can easily access, wedged between floor and ceiling here. The ceilings are quite low, aren't they? So you want to be sure that you can easily access your water. And I often find that holding my palette in the left hand allows me to see the colour that I'm aiming for as I'm making it. Yeah, that's perfect, Erin. And, you know, I want to be sure too that it's high enough. Is that going to move up? I think it's this that needs to move. Is this the one you were using, Paula, yesterday? Is it awkward?
Yes.
Oh, easily. Almost an expletive there. I'm just going to leave the fucking thing, and there it is. There's the expletive. I'm going to leave it off. Right. So now at least I can go up without anything obscuring that. Because I want to be sure that I'm...
Sorry.
This is going to fall again. So the screech this time will be from Evie. Last year there was someone screeching on camera. I forget who it was. Oh, it was, yeah, Joan. Okay, right. Because the whole thing fell, like, and someone saw it before I did. Okay, so let's see now. You can still see there too, yeah, good. Okay, so again, I'm doing the thing of half closing the eyes, and you can see the left side of Erin's face as I'm looking at her has got shadow, you know, as usual, below the cheekbone. There's a kind of bump of the cheekbone visible by catching the light. And you can see too that there's, like when I half close my eyes, there's even the little dip for where the temple is in a slight shadow. And I'll pick out the other areas here too. I'm noticing as well the vertical of the background and how much the hair, like it's almost like the hair is vertical down, it's continuing the vertical in front of her ear there, and then it's starting to slant forwards a little bit more to describe the slant of the body, the slant of the seated figure there. Okay. So I'm talking about the position of the forms in order to clarify for myself where I want them to be, and you know, even just discussing where the shadows are, I can start to plot my course without even having touched the paper. So you're already planning things before even, well, you know, already visualizing the space that she's going to occupy on the page. Okay, I'll put the brushes there. I like to have a couple of things of water, and to have kitchen paper to touch the brushes on, so that the water seeps out of the brushes. It pulls it. It kind of is drawn out of the brush itself by the kitchen paper, rather than pressing it again. This is because of our conversation yesterday. Sometimes you might find that you want to pull, you know, really dry the brush, but then it leaves it hairy at the edges like that, and it means that it's difficult to make a clean mark. If you want a textured mark, that's grand, you know. But what I like to do is to just put the brush into the water all the way down to the metal bit, then draw it up on each side so that most of the water's gone, and then it might still be fairly wet, so I would just touch it on the paper towel then before putting it in to pick up my colour, so that it doesn't end up with loads of paint of water everywhere, and yet your brush is together at the edge so you can make a clean mark. Okay, I better just start now. And I do want a bit more fluidity, because you can feel it after a while. You can feel how fluid it is on the palette. And I want to, because I'm reckoning I'm going to do big moves to begin with. I want the paint to move freely and quickly. around. I want to be able to fill a large area quickly, and when it's a little bit more fluid, that it allows that to happen. So I'm going to pick up some of the cadmium red and the sap green, again, just to describe the skin colour. You see okay there? All right. And so it's like that. Yeah, I'll just start with that. It's maybe a little bit light, but sure. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit light, but it's okay. It'll be a beginning. And because I feel like Erin's got a little bit more warmth, I've put in some yellow ochre into that colour too. So there's a kind of a warmish glow on the skin. And I'm judging the position of things. Sorry, I'm meaning to set the alarm there. You've been sitting for a while, haven't you? Erin, is 20 minutes from now okay? Okay. And maybe I'll just say 15, because you know the score. You've been watching this for a while, so 15 minutes should be fine. And set the alarm for that, so we won't go over. There we are. Yeah, and remember to keep yourself hydrated. Keep lively, keep moving, but also steady yourself when you are, and don't get a model who's laughing. Yesterday, I don't often laugh, but when you bit the charcoal, because I was trying to get the charcoal to be, in the video, and I just bit it, and she was like, I really found it hard to keep a straight face. Because I had stuff in my teeth and everything then. Okay. Fierce professional. Okay. So keep lively, and then remember to steady yourself in the position so that you're coming back to the same position that you were always looking from, and you can see the model and see the board by only moving your eyes. Now I'm putting her back this far because I like the diagonal of the hair coming down as a compositional entry in, and I feel if her face was here, it would be quite close to the edge of the page and not enough breathing space almost. Okay. So if there's any questions or anything like that, just shoot, otherwise I'll just keep going. Okay. And so what I've got here is an indication of the shadow underneath the cheekbone, and I'll put something here for the temple, and then the underside of the chin and the jaw there. If I hold the brush like this, it runs more freely down the way too to describe the edge, just the edge of the chin there. And then the next shadow that I'm noticing is the shadow where the top, there's a shadow on the skin where the top meets the neck. So it's casting a shadow onto the skin underneath. It's just from this angle I think that's visible, but it's quite a nice area of dark to observe. And it sits just a little bit. I mean, that's something that's going to change every time. Just now it's available to see there, so I'm just putting that in. And to describe it with a bit more clarity, so that we know what it is. It looks a bit odd until I put the hair there. So I'm going to put some Van Dyke brown and ultramarine blue in. Sorry, that's the ultramarine blue, you know it, the darker of the two blues. So the Van Dyke brown and the ultramarine blue together will make a colour for the dark of the hair. And what I'm looking at when I'm explaining the hair is the shape of the skin that's outlined by the hair. So the shape of the skin here is what I'm going to look at, and there's a V shape where the hair meets the skin, and if I was to draw a straight line up, it would meet the chin about there. So I'm just going to kind of locate things a little bit more easily for myself, give myself a bit of an easier job. And I've got the leg of the lamp as well, of course, which is another vertical that I can use to see how much the back of the head veers off that vertical back of the hair. There's a few changes in direction back there. And it's helpful, like yesterday, Paula, we were noticing where the hair goes in at the back in relation to the bottom of the chin. It's helpful to look at that. And although her hair is down, there is a bump of hair that relates to the bottom of the neck, and it kind of comes in for it comes in to describe the head there at the back. And it sits on the shoulder. So the thing that's helpful about the hair there is that it's explaining the cross section of the shoulder for me. anything like clothing or hair that falls on a body will begin to explain the shape of the body. Okay, let's see now. And I think I'll continue because there's a nice line with the arm meeting the hair there. That's a nice clean line as well, which runs almost the same, almost parallel to that line, but back a little bit. So, and I'm trying to figure out how far down it is. I'd say about there. You know, Ali, yesterday, how we were measuring how many heads go into the body. It's a similar kind of thing down to the elbow. You know, how long is the space before we get to the bend in the elbow. Very often, unless we're close, unless we stand back often, we kind of end up making a small elbow or a shorter space there. And if you don't want to even have to bother about it, you could just do something very free and hope for the best. You know. Yeah, it's okay. We'll see what that reads as later on, but for now I think it's okay, you know. Okay. So back up to the face now. I could do with filling in a little bit more of where the hair meets the face. At the temple there. And even like looking at the shape of the face, and it's if the ear was visible, it would still be quite a triangular shape. It helps me to know that so that I can kind of judge the distance, the height in relation to the width. And of course I would use the verticals in the background to decide which part of Erin's face is touching the vertical. If it were to move forward, it would be the nose first, and then equally the forehead and the chin from where I'm looking. So I know that now in my head. Now is the task of placing it down. And we've got just about 9 minutes. That's good. Okay, so do you know the next most forgiving thing for me to paint here really would be the socket of the eye. That helps me to locate the edge of the face and kind of working my way up to the edge rather than planting it blindly. So I'll work my way up by painting in the shadows, gradually come across. So there's a shadow underneath the cheek there. The ear is kind of hidden there. And maybe the neck would be helpful too. Before doing the eye socket even, I'll just fill in something for the neck so that I have an idea of where then the dark in the eye socket will be located. And as I continue the line of the neck, it looks as though the eye sits just back from that, but it almost runs in the same direction, the edge of the iris. So forgetting really that it's an eye altogether though, I'm just going to look at the diagonal shadow shape there, which kind of runs along the line of that, and then the two directions of the eyebrow. So one going up the way and then coming down for the side of the face. Something like that. And it'll be darker as it dips down here. There's a helpful dark there on the inner corner of the eyebrow to anchor it down. No, I didn't show you what I was doing there, but I just mixed in some, in a panic, I just, Paula.
So it's really, you got a wide brush, but you managed to make smaller. Can you tell us a bit about how you...
Yeah, thank you. I think it's helpful to see if you can manage to use the wide brushes as long as possible. I have changed from the 2-inch down to the 1.5-inch brush, so it's not quite as big. But and do you know, it might have been useful for me there, instead of having a long eyebrow shape, to plant this one. Do you know, the 1-inch brush might have been a better length there. But I do find that as soon as I go to smaller brushes, I become a little less free. And a little more inclined to focus on one area for longer. I want.
So
go ahead.
Just use the corner of the brush? Or?
Yeah, so it's kind of that's true. Yeah, so dipping in here, let me see. Yeah, so the corner is quite a descriptive thing. I'm going to do that in answer to your question of trying to use the corner of the brush to describe the shadow that's under the nose now. Because it's true for you, I think it's not always just the width of the brush that's used, but the diagonal triangular shape you can achieve with it. You can achieve a triangle Okay, and sometimes not even using the full width of the brush, but just touching the corner itself on there will give you something to describe, say, the parallelogram shadow or the triangular shadow that's under the nose here. Now I'm going to find the shadow under the nose by locating it horizontally across the face in relation to the ear, in relation to the eyebrow, and in relation to the chin. So the bottom earlobe there is about there, I think, and the underside of the nose is a little bit up from that on the horizontal. So just that touch there was done with the corner of the brush, and it's true for you. It's quite a nice way to bring in a small shape without changing brush sizes, just to tip the corner of the brush as a beginning. And to help me locate it, I can carry on using the brush to make the shape bigger once I know, do I need to come down or do I need to go up with that shadow? And I think it's closer, the shadow underneath Erin's nose is closer to the chin than it is, I think, to the eyebrow. And I'm just putting a touch of more dark in there just to know where I'm looking, to know what I'm looking at in terms of above and below it. So yeah, I think the shadow that's cast by the nose sits a little bit further closer to the chin than it does to the eyebrow. And the thing that I'm looking at here as well is where the C shape of the nostril meets the cheek. And if I were to draw a line up from that, the eyebrow sits in front of that a little bit. So I know then that I'm aiming to bring this back a touch. This C shape here, it's a backwards C shape where the nostril meets the flesh of the nostril meets the cheek, the light on the cheek. And then we can carry on over and up, and I'll still work with this brush because it's just the tip of the corner that's able to describe the underside of the spherical end of the nose there. I mean, even those moves are a little bit fine at this point. One single shadow might work as well, like, but I'll carry on now using this as well, the same colour and everything for the upper lip, which again sits a little bit more in shadow. Did I answer the question there, do you think? Yeah, okay. It sits a bit more in shadow, and we're going to bring the corner of the mouth. It sits more in shadow than the lower lip does. And there's a lovely overbite, so the upper lip stands out a little bit further on a vertical than the lower lip, you know. So we've got the upper lip in there, and then rather than paint anything of the lower lip, I am going to move to a smaller brush now. And I'll put a touch of sap green into the mix, which was quite warm up until now, and I'm going to use that to make a shadow underneath the lower lip. I often do this shadow, and it's really important to still look at the person so that you're not just thinking, oh, there's a shadow there that'll make it look like a mouth. You want it to read as this mouth. Yeah. And so, you know, look at the shape of the shadow best you can. Sometimes you have to really look closely to find any shadow there, but there is a shadow here at the moment. In fact, it's darker, so the light on the lower lip is evident and the light on the chin is evident, and between those two. So if you find it hard to find a shadow, look for the light, and that will, those will be the jigsaw pieces on either side of the shadow. So once you find your lights, you'll know where the shadow is. I'm going to sort of dip the brush into the water there because that's quite dark. I'm happy to have that much pigment there because I want to spread it out back the way. So I'll just lift this edge to allow it to spread back where this shadow connects with the little dip there in the corner of the mouth, and it kind of carries on, and it can re-establish the line of the jaw too, where the drips accumulate along a line. Can be helpful, you know. So I've taken a bit of care not to let that break open and flow down into the neck for now, because it helps me to have another line that defines the jaw. And you kind of get used to, like driving a car, like I've said before, you get used to doing things with what you've got. You know, you kind of get used to the automatic response to, oh, there's a drip there, where do I need it? Where do I need an edge? Where do I need a line? And then direct it. You can conduct the moving water to describe the darks and lights.
Can I ask you something?
Of course, yeah.
It's that when you're mixing your colours, you mix them all in the same, you're not kind of mixing that colour and then this colour in another place and that colour. It all goes into the same mix, and I'm really interested in that because then if you want to go back to something you used before, you mix it again.
Yeah.
So it's really, I just think that's really interesting. But you notice, oh, I'll add a little bit, but it's all the same mix.
Yeah, sometimes. And then if you feel that it gets a bit kind of grey, you might want to wipe it out and start again. But I would say when you've put 2 or 3 colours together, you might want to really consider then starting again. Sometimes if there's 3 colours there and I just want to make a darker tone, I'll just put ultramarine blue into it. And that would be the last thing I would do with the colour, and then I'd wipe it away maybe. So I'm going to put a bit of ultramarine blue in here because I feel like that could do with being darkened down a little bit more. And while it's still damp, the water will pull the paint around for you. Okay. Oh yeah, we're into the last minute. I think, do you know, for now it's not too bad. I might just put something in for the crown so that we've some idea of where the forehead stops. And I'm drawing a line down, so I'm seeing the forehead as a triangle. The tip of the triangle, if I was to draw a straight line down from that, would hit through the eyebrow there, at the corner of the eyebrow, maybe just slightly in front of it. And the volume of skin on the forehead is, I'm just looking at the volume of the skin on the forehead in relation to, say, the volume of skin on the neck, in order to make it not too big or too small. So there's a couple of things that help me there. And I'm not going to paint the edge of the forehead just yet. I might indicate the slight C shape where the other eye sits. And there's just a tiny bit of that eyebrow visible to me from here. And maybe a little bit of the eyelash line eventually. Yeah, so the point is about there. Okay. And then just so that we know that it's hair and not just some sort of a line. Kind of help to put a bit of colour there. I think that my phone is on silent because that was definitely 40 seconds, wasn't it? Yeah, Erin, thanks very much. That's great. And I'll just maybe hold this up before I say goodbye to you guys. Oh, I just noticed the top of the head was off the page there for the online viewers. It's never straightforward. Okay, so that's the bones of what's going to be built over later on. Thanks for watching. All the best.